Ah, the 90s had awesome commercials. Welcome, my friends, to Mortal Kombat. Ah, fighting games. Made popular by Street Fighter 2. Now don't get me wrong, I love Street Fighter, but as far as fighting games go, Mortal Kombat was always my go-to. I own every single Mortal Kombat game, except for Special Forces, because I've not heard good things, and it's hard to find. Will I add it to this marathon if I can get my hands on it? Maybe. I got a lot to say about the series, its lore, its gameplay, its violence, but first we gotta go back to the beginning. Mortal Kombat was developed by a small team, which is notable from the hundreds that work on the games today. The creation of the game is most commonly attributed to two people, Ed Boon and John Tobias. Tobias designed the mythos and the characters, and Boon would provide the programming to combine both elements.
It's easy to come up with the ideas, anybody can come up with ideas for games and stuff, but it's to actually convert something from an idea in your head into reality, into something that is a sellable product. That's where the challenge is.
This is sort of the very first concept of the story. This guy here eventually became Shang Tsung.
The mystique and all that whole feeling of it was really the foundation of that was really what John Tobias kind of envisioned.
Many other series mainstays, such as John Vogel and Dan Forden, will get their start here. Unlike Street Fighter 2, which was heavily inspired by anime, Mortal Kombat utilized digitized actors.
Before I get to the top, you gotta get through me. I'm Johnny Cage. No contest.
Ha! I'm Sonya Blade. If you hesitate, I'll take you down.
This helped give the game a realism, and of course, you can't talk about Mortal Kombat without talking about the blood. Mortal Kombat shocked many with its excessive blood and gore. You could actually kill your opponents in this game. That was a novel idea at the time. Sub-Zero pulls out someone's spine and Kano rips out their heart. For the time, it was absolutely jaw-dropping. So much so that there had to be Senate hearings about the game. Nintendo even left out the blood in the Super Nintendo version, which is why many got the Genesis version over the Super Nintendo version. But now that I've gotten through all that, let's begin with the plot and the lore of this series, and for that, I'm going to be looking at the Mortal Kombat 1 comic book. Our epic tale begins long ago. Sorcerer Shang Tsung committed the crime of stealing a soul. As punishment, he was cursed by the gods, who I assume are the precursors to the other gods, constantly need to do so, otherwise he would grow old and eventually die. Are you serious? That's like sentencing a serial killer to have to kill more people. It's insane! The other gods are idiots. Shang Tsung entered the Shaolin tournament and took control of it, eventually becoming Grand Champion. It seemed no one could stop the sorcerer until he appeared, the great Kung Lao. Now, before you ask, no. The Kung Lao that we see here is not the Kung Lao we see later. This is his ancestor, the Great Kung Lao. The movie said that he was related to Liu Kang, but John Tobias recently confirmed on Twitter that no, Liu Kang is not related to the Great Kung Lao.
I am Liu Kang, descendant of Kung Lao. I challenge you to Mortal Kombat.
Kung Lao defeated Shang Tsung and reclaimed the tournament for the Shaolin. Shang Tsung disappeared shortly after and was not seen again, but 50 years later, Shang Tsung returns as an old man with his pupil, Goro. Goro is a Shokan. Shokans are half-human, half-dragon creatures. Where did they come from? How did Shang Tsung recruit Goro? Well, I'm not going to go into it here. I gotta save some stuff for the Mortal Kombat 2 video. So back to the story. Kung Lao battled against Goro long and hard, but eventually he fell at the hands of his enemy. 500 years pass. No warrior has been able to defeat Goro, and Shang Tsung's reign of the tournament has gone unchallenged. Which brings us to today, or at least the 1990s, in the Shaolin temples in China, where we meet the hero of our story, a young man named Liu Kang. Ah, Liu Kang. As Ed Boon said, he's Luke Skywalker of the series, like Ryu from Street Fighter. Now, he was originally going to be bald like an actual Shaolin monk, like Aang on The Last Airbender, but Ho Sung Pak didn't want to shave his head, so they instead went the Bruce Lee look, itself a homage to when Bruce Lee played a Shaolin monk in Game of Death. Though Shang Tsung has hold over the tournament, Liu Kang represents their last best chance to take it back. Liu Kang vows not to fail. 2 weeks later, the boat arrives to pick up the combatants. It's there we meet Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage. Well, every universe has to have a Mr. Satan, or Hercule if you're watching the dub. Johnny Cage is a loudmouth egotist, and he's very proud of his skills, and he joins the tournament because, well, the critics don't take him seriously. So he joins to basically prove them wrong, show that he is the special effects. Speeding towards the boat is the Black Dragon member Kano, who is pursued by Special Forces agent Sonya Blade. Now, Kano and Sonya have this history. The games didn't really say what it was until, I think, the reboot game, but in the movies they imply it's because Kano killed her partner, but I don't think that was ever mentioned in the games, so people just kind of took that as, like, canon. Kano is able to elude Sonya and gets on board the boat. Sonya makes a plan to intercept the boat. Shang Tsung visits the mountains in Japan and issues a challenge for the Thunder God Raiden to join. Raiden accepts and vows that anyone who opposes Raiden will be crushed. Raiden. Every story has a mentor character. Dumbledore from Harry Potter, Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. That's Raiden's role in a nutshell. Although his portrayal in this game is not exactly what you'd expect. But I'll go into that when I get into the endings. Kano and some thugs attack Johnny Cage, but Liu Kang comes to his rescue, and they fight them off. Unbeknownst to the duo, a ninja watches them who goes by the name Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero. There would actually be 2 Sub-Zeros. This one we would come to know later as Bi-Han. Now, what is Sub-Zero's purpose in the grand scheme of things? Well, he goes in his own little direction. But I'll go into that when I cover his own game, Mortal Kombat Mythologies. And unbeknownst to Sub-Zero, he is being watched by the Ninja Spectre Scorpion. Scorpion. He's always been my favorite character. And he basically wants revenge on Sub-Zero because he murdered him. Yeah, that's where this comes in. Yeah, that's where you realize, oh shit, this guy is dead! Scorpion confronts Sub-Zero. 2 years ago, you murdered me. And though he could kill him where he stands, he is not a murderer, but they will fight the tournament and there he will pay for his crimes. Sub-Zero comments that Scorpion is a fool for sparing his life, but Scorpion responds that remains to be seen. Scorpion Sub-Zero. Their rivalry is one of the most famous in video game history. You see, a lot of media, like the films and the animated series, they all like to portray Scorpion as the bad guy and Sub-Zero as the good guy because, you know, Scorpion kind of comes off as bad. But the truth is, Scorpion is more of a neutral. He's neither good nor evil, and that's what I find so interesting about him, is that he can attack either good or evil depending on his mood, and depending on where his interests lie. So really, it's not quite that simple. In this game, I tend to think Scorpion's really the good guy because he wants revenge on Sub-Zero for murdering him. They arrive on Shang Tsung's island. Sonya's team has been captured, and she must fight in the tournament to save her companions' lives. The fighters are ready, and Goro announces for the tournament to begin. So with that, let's go into the game itself. You pick one of the 7 characters and you're thrust into battle. You must fight each of the other combatants before facing a mirror match of yourself. Mortal Kombat set itself apart from Street Fighter in that while Street Fighter had light, medium, and heavy attacks with punch and kick, this game has 4 buttons: high punch, low punch, high kick, and low kick. You also have a block button which you'll need to learn how to time. It's not like in Street Fighter where you press back to block. Personally, I prefer pressing back to block as it's more instinctive. Press the punch button repeatedly, your character will routinely punch. You can trip your opponent with a sweep attack by pressing down the low kick, and you can do a roundhouse kick by holding back and high kick. But the best move of all is the uppercut. Nothing felt more satisfying than pulling off one of these. It really felt like you had the power. Holding the high punch when near an opponent and your character will perform a backhand. A low punch they will do a throw, and pressing kick will cause them to do a knee attack. And no 2D fighting game would be complete without the special moves. Instead of inputting directions in a circle motion, you had to input a certain direction, and all the special moves featured became defining archetypes of the characters. You got Liu Kang's flying kick, Sub-Zero's freeze ball, Johnny Cage's nut punch, Raiden's torpedo where he yells, whatever the hell this is. And I cannot go without mentioning Scorpion's spear. Fighting your opponents is tricky. Sometimes they can be real cheap assholes and pull out a combo that they somehow know is going to beat yours, so you can't do the same thing over and over, or else they'll adapt to it. Sometimes you can get lucky, like here where I was constantly able to trip my opponent. My recommendation is that while it's tempting to constantly use uppercuts, you need to remember to change your strategy so your opponent will always block. Let's talk about the stages. You begin on the basic courtyard, but what I really love is how each stage connects to one another. In the palace gates, you can see the entrance to the courtyard, and the warrior shrine, you can see the entrance to the pit. It's a nice little touch that adds a sense of progression throughout the game. My favorite stage background has got to be the pit. It just seems so epic. You're fighting on top of a bridge, and if you uppercut your opponent after beating them, they'll fall into the spikes below. Of course, there's a big secret. You can fight a hidden opponent, but I'll go into that in just a moment. There's the Test Your Might minigame. It's really nothing special, it's just mass a bunch of buttons to smash whatever happens to be in your way. It's not the first game to ever do this. The original Street Fighter was, but a lot of people didn't play the original Street Fighter, so they have no idea. Now let's go into the fatalities. Pretty much all of these become the character's iconic finishing moves. Well, I'm going to say what I think is the best and worst fatality. The best fatality? I have a soft spot for Scorpion's toasty fatality, but I gotta give it the Sub-Zero spine roll. It's just so brutal and iconic. As for the worst, it's definitely Liu Kang's. He just does a cartwheel and uppercuts them. Now, there is an explanation for that. It's that Shaolin monks don't believe in killing people, so Liu Kang's fatality reflected that. Of course, this wouldn't stick, as we'll see in the next game. You see that Santa Claus silhouette? That's your cue. You have to get a double flawless victory and perform a fatality. If you can do it, you'll fight Reptile. I was able to do it, but unfortunately not when the Santa Claus was in front of the moon. But I'm going to show it to you anyway. The magic of YouTube. If you can beat him, you get 10 million points. Although Reptile wouldn't really have his own identity until the next game. This was huge. No fighting game had ever done anything like this. There was never any kind of secret like this. But we got an endgame to cover, so let's do it. First, you have to fight 3 endurance matches. These can be a real pain. You just gotta hope you knock out the first guy without taking too much damage when you get to the second. Once you get to the third endurance match, you're automatically taken to Goro's lair. You hear nothing but these footsteps coming towards you. When you finally emerge triumphant, Goro appears. It is one of the most tense moments I remember playing growing up, and he promptly kicks your ass. I've discovered a good strategy for beating Goro. It basically involves moving as far back as possible and hitting him with jump kits repeatedly. I did this with varying success with all the characters. Scorpion took a few tries. Sub-Zero also took a few tries. Liu Kang beat him in the first match, even scoring a flawless victory in the second round. That's why he's the Mortal Kombat champion. Johnny Cage did fairly well. Sonya, not so good. Kano, oh, just let this speak for itself. Yeah. Raiden, did okay. So after you beat Goro, you face the true final boss, Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung's main draw is to confirm any of the fighters, but overall he is much easier than Goro. The only thing you gotta look out for is that you can't sweep him because he's floating. But eventually he goes down, and as an added bonus as Liu Kang, I was able to beat him with a flying kick. Which for those of you who don't know, that's how Liu Kang canonically beat him. With each character you get a different ending. I'm going to go into all of them. Liu Kang, he manages to restore the tournament to its rightful owners, the Shaolin. His heroics will always be remembered. Johnny Cage, he learns the true meaning of his fighting skills and he goes on to film Mortal Kombat the movie and its many successful sequels. Metaphor. Sonya, with her comrades in jeopardy, she manages to save her unit and put an end to the Black Dragon and Shang Tsung. Though considering she didn't win, that kinda leaves an awful implication as to what happened to her unit. Kano, he takes over the tournament and brings his own anarchy and death. Yeah, that's it. Scorpion. Here's where we learn that he was marked for death by the Lin Kuei, but was allowed to return and avenge his death, but the price he paid was high. He can never again know his family and must live forever with his secret curse. This implies that his family was originally going to be alive, but later games would establish them as dead. Sub-Zero, it turns out his job was to assassinate Shang Tsung as paid for by one of Shang Tsung's wealthy enemies. Now who would that be? Who knows? After accomplishing his mission, he retires. Ironic. Raiden, he brings in other gods for the tournament, and their combined forces end up destroying the world. Yeah, not exactly the ending you'd expect from the wise mentor, huh? So that was Mortal Kombat. Its looks have aged, and I can't deny that the CPU can be a real cheap bastard, but I have a fondness for this game. Call it nostalgia, but I can't help but still love it years later. But this was just the warm-up. Join me next time for Mortal Kombat 2, where we get into the lore of the series. Thanks for watching, have a fantastic day, and take care. Hey, I hope you liked the video. Hit that subscribe button to see more.